Good morning, I'm Shelby Roberts. We begin this morning with our special report. A very active night for first responders across the city of Peoria. From shootings to fires and break-ins, it was all hands on deck for local police, firefighters, and even state police. Now, as we speak, officials continue to investigate more than a dozen active scenes. We're joined now by Kimberly Eaton. She has been following the latest ever since everything started breaking out this morning. Kimberly, you're currently at Bremer Jewelry off University, and that's one of the locations where we heard of a lot of activity throughout the night.
Yeah, and Shelby, and that was the case really all around the city. For the last 7.5 hours, we have hit just about every neighborhood in this town, trying to keep up with the reports that were coming in of damage, destruction, injuries, violence, shootings, all kinds of things. But it wasn't really until the daylight hours that we can now see and fully kind of get a grasp on the extent of the damage done all around the city of Peoria. And I'm going to step out of the way so you can get a look here behind me at Bremer Jewelry. As you said, these employees here cleaning up. I spoke with them briefly a few minutes ago, and they tell me that they actually got this call that their store had been broken into shortly after it happened, around 2 this morning. I'm not sure if that came from police or their alarm company, but either way they were notified, and they came to the store and they found that there was a break-in. They tell me they don't believe anything was stolen, but as we know, this did not end at 2 in the morning. This truly did not calm down until sunrise. So one of the employees here told me that he had to stay here all night, and people kept showing up trying to get back into his store. So this was a very long night for a lot of people in the city of Peoria, and certainly the work is just beginning for the store owners here and store owners across the city. We've also seen damage at the Target, some Walmart, some local beauty supply stores, some cell phone stores, police responding to at least 12 different active scenes throughout the night. And I think that number is probably very low, and we're going to find out about other incidents as we kind of get here into the daylight hours and everyone has time to wrap up investigations and really wrap their heads around what exactly happened last night. But Shelby, we're still out here. We're returning to a lot of the places that we've been in the overnight hours, waiting to hear from police as they continue to work, and as soon as we have any information, so will you. For now, reporting live in Peoria, I'm Kimberly Eaton for Wmbd.
And Kimberly, we see some City of Peoria crews that are out there. We know this is not the first time we have seen crews that have come to scene to touch base with businesses as they work to repair some of the damage.
Yeah, we've seen other crews, other city workers coming out to businesses and kind of just seeing who needs help and what kind of help. My guess would be, I haven't spoken with them because you just saw them pull up here as we were talking to you. My guess would be that they are here to help kind of patch up windows, because as a lot of these things were happening overnight, we heard calls for help to go board up this business or board up that business. And earlier when we were speaking, one of the big questions was, do business owners really know what they're walking into this morning? And in this case, as we found out, these folks did, but a lot of this is still very new. So yeah, city workers still showing up at a variety of places, and it's going to be a long day, a long morning, and a lot of work to start some of this cleanup.
Kimberly, thank you so much. We'll continue to follow this. We also want to turn now to Janie Bowman. She's been following some of the acts of rebellion and unrest that have been taking place throughout the night, currently at Walmart on University, again on that same stretch where we have been seeing a lot of activity. What's the latest there, Janie?
Hey, good morning, Shelby. It might not look like it based off where I'm standing, but this is now what the entrance to Walmart here on University Street in Peoria now looks like. Employees have been here this morning cleaning up the mess that was left last night. The manager tells me around 3 a.m. is when people tried to break into the store. They actually broke 3 glass windows here and another panel right down the way. But now this is how they're now trying to barricade the entrances here. You can see they've got these metal barricades here, but they've also got topsoil. This was taken from their garden center, and they were bringing these pallets of topsoil. They're stacked about 6 feet high now, blocking off the entrance so that people aren't able to get in, hopefully adding another layer of protection to these glass windows. On the inside earlier, we were able to see water bottles, cases of water bottles stacked up high to try to prevent people, along with shopping carts, so that if people were to break through these windows, which, you know, looks like they did overnight this morning, you know, they would be stopped by these level of protections. And now just a little bit ago, we saw some of the employees actually bringing plywood panels up here, and it appears that they're going to be blocking off some of these entrances, either the ones that have already been broken, these glass windows, or blocking off some of the ones that weren't broken overnight, so they have that extra layer of protection. I'll have some more updates for you this morning, and I do want to make sure that you know the store normally opens at 7 in the morning, but it's not open today, and it will not be opening at this time right now. For now, live in Peoria, I'm Janie Pullman.
And Janie, before you go, to my understanding, that second barrier of glass that's behind all of that topsoil, that was not broken through?
Shelby, some of these panels of glass were in these sliding glass doors. There were about 3 right down the way, and you can see one right there. You can see it's totally broken through. You can see through the store, and right next to it, you're able to see the one that's not broken. So some were damaged and broken and shattered. Others are still intact here. So it wasn't like every window was broken here.
Janie, thank you so much. We'll continue to follow that story. We know you've been keeping a close eye on the stretch on University Street. We will continue our team coverage in this unrest in Peoria overnight when we return. Daniel, we're learning that he's got some information, and he also has been out all morning long keeping track of the latest destruction that's been taking place. Eugene, where are you now, and what have you been seeing all morning long?
Yes, Shelby, we're outside of Beauty Empire on Western Avenue on the south side of Peoria. And like Kim, we too have seen the large caravan of cars, about at some points 20 to 30 even more cars driving throughout the city, hanging out of their cars, speeding, making crazy turns around. I want to show you, here's a scene here at Beauty Empire. We actually arrived here just as the men who were boarding up this place arrived, and the owner as well. You can see the glass here on the ground. We have video that we shot when we arrived earlier when they got onto the scene, and you should be able to see that even though there was a kind of a barricade on the inside, they were able to crash the window, pull that back, and actually get in and get a few items. The owner absolutely devastated when they arrived, and I want to show you here why. A reminder, as we're going through all of this tonight, the craziness that's going on tonight. If you can come back to me off that video. Look at this sign, must have a mask on. That's a reminder that we're still in the midst of a pandemic. So a lot of these business owners have been closed here for months. And so the owner, already having to deal with the loss of revenue from being closed for a few months, now has to deal with this overnight. Again, it's been a wild night. We've seen so many scenes throughout the city, still just trying to get our grasp on it. Talked to an officer here on the scene as well. They said they haven't seen this in their entire career, Shelby.
Eugene, thank you so much. Be safe out there. Good morning, Central Illinois. This is Shelby Roberts with WMBD this morning. We begin with a special report. A very active night for first responders right here across Peoria. From shootings to fires and break-ins, it was all hands on deck for local police, firefighters, and even state police that got called in. This comes on the heels of a very active weekend of protests after the death of George Floyd, who was a black man that was killed in Minneapolis at the hands of a police officer there after that officer kneeled on his neck during an arrest at this time. Now, in regards here to Central Illinois, as we speak, those officials continue to investigate more and more than a dozen active scenes. WMBD has been there the entire time, working to keep you and your family updated on the latest. Now, let's turn to these acts of rebellion that have been happening all night long. Our crews are stationed throughout the city this morning to bring you the latest in last night's developments. We've got WMBD's Kimberly Eaton as well as Eugene Daniel, who we'll also hear from, and Janie Bowman. They are live posted throughout the city. Let's begin with Kimberly Eaton. Kim, what can you tell us? Where are you and what's been happening all morning long?
Oh, Shelby, right now it's frankly tough to set the scene with all of the chaos you just described. Right now we're at the Peoria Target, but this is just one location in what's really been hours of unrest. As you described, we've seen property damage, we've seen looting, arson, reports of shootings, and other violence. And this all started around midnight. Since then, we've seen 40 to 50 cars zigzagging across the city. At some point, we heard reports of maybe up to 150 cars full of people who've just been traversing Peoria. And we've been somewhat following this wave of crime. And to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, if you walk with me here for a minute, as I said, we're at the Peoria Target, and you can see somewhat the aftermath here. We've got a row of carts blocking the doors, which have been shattered. This happened just before about 2:30 this morning. We spoke with some police who've been near this store, telling us that people did get inside. We don't know at this point if they were able to take anything. After all of this happened, it was pretty quiet when we were here recording video. All of a sudden, we started to see dozens of cars coming back through this Target parking lot and crisscrossing down towards the Best Buy, which is just a few stores down here. Police were able to somewhat turn them around and stop people from getting into the parking lot of that store. But as we've been at these various scenes, two of them, we are told, possible shootings. It's been an intense situation. It's been a fluid situation. Officers at one of the scenes telling us they do believe that all of these things are connected, including the violence, and they've been telling us as much as they can when they can this morning while still trying to protect our city. So again, this is an intense situation. It's a fluid one. These reports are still coming in, and as soon as we have any more information, of course, so will you. But Shelby, for now, reporting live, I'm Kimberly Eaton. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Kim. Sunday, a protest that started in front of the McLean County Sheriff's Office continued to parts of downtown Bloomington before ending up in front of the Justice Center, where law enforcement officials, elected officials, and community activists spoke and reflected on the life of George Floyd and how people in McLean County, how they feel what they need to do in order to make sure a death like Floyd's doesn't happen again.
Chants of Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe filled the streets of downtown Bloomington Sunday as community members came together to protest inequality in America.
We're not out here saying no lives matter other than Black Lives Matter. We're saying that all lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter.
A wave of peaceful protests sweeping the nation initially started because of the death of George Floyd, but many say there's a larger problem here.
There's a systematic problem, and there's no question about that. And all it takes is one person to inappropriately exercise their police powers or constitutional authority that they're exercising on behalf of a city to hurt or kill somebody.
Many say the events around the country prove people are upset about the injustices many minority community members are facing. But just as that incident sparked these events, they're hoping these events spark a change.
Everything that happened to George Floyd, everything that happened to Ahmaud Arbery, everything that happened to Breonna Taylor can happen here. And so we need folks here in the community willing to come together, willing to have the hard conversations so we can make a change here to hopefully spark change around the world.
Event organizers say they hope people walk away with more awareness and an understanding that this is an issue that to solve will take more than one person. Others say they hope this acts as a wake-up call, letting people know there are things you can do to help.
America needs to flip the script. We need a new narrative here, one that's going to protect all the citizens and that's going to treat all citizens equally. It has to be change that is about policy change, and it's about political change.
In McLean County, I'm Minash Gwangwari.
A tale of two very different approaches for a similar cause. Our crews stationed throughout the city this morning to bring you the latest in last night's developments. We want to turn to Nick Molinari, WMBD's own at Target. He is there at Veterans Parkway in Normal with the latest as more and more people we see behind you are starting to try to get some answers about what happened last night, Nick.
Yeah, Shelby, an overnight confrontation turned violent last night and resulted in the looting of several Bloomington and Normal stores. The target behind me, Normal Walmarts, and among several other stores were looted. According to the Normal police, a couple hundred people were outside the Target exchanging words with officers before throwing bottles and rocks at them. No serious injuries were reported, although several police vehicles were damaged. Sergeant Rick Bleichner with the Normal Police says that there were around 25 officers blocking the entrance, but he eventually withdrew them to avoid further injuries. Bleichner says the people looting were not involved in organizing the peaceful protests that occurred last night. They were just a small group of protesters that broke off. For now, live in Normal, I'm Nick Molinari.
Nick, thank you so much. We'll continue to check in with you throughout the rest of the morning. We want to turn now to our own Kimberly Eaton, another Target location here in Peoria. Kim, you've been checking in to see the latest developments because we have seen that this is another one of the stores that have been hit throughout the night.
Yeah, and Shelby, I'll get out of the way so you can see what's going on behind me right now. Our photojournalist Michael Phillips is going to push in so we can get a little bit of a closer look. We're trying to give workers some room to work this morning. You might be able to hear it. They're starting to board up some of the glass doors that were shattered at around 2:30 this morning when folks showed up here, and police tell us they were able to break through the doors. We don't know at this point if they actually stole anything from this Target, but police again telling us that folks were able to break in here. And in fact, we showed up here a little bit after everything we thought had somewhat quieted down, and we were recording some video here, and there was a patrol car guarding the front of the store. And at that time, a few dozen cars started showing back up, racing through this parking lot. Part of that group that had been here earlier or had been in other locations in the city coming back, they kind of drove by this Target and down almost toward the Best Buy. That's where they were headed, and one patrol car, one officer was able to sort of reroute them and stop folks from breaking into any other store along here at this point. But that just kind of tells you how this night has gone. For about 6 hours or so, people were driving around the city, dozens of cars in groups, and hitting one store and then another, and then circling back to some of these stores and hitting them again. Now, every time we don't know if they were able to steal things, but they did cause a lot of damage across the city. And this is kind of now the scene that we're seeing play out in several locations this morning. A lot of folks showing up here, starting to assess the damage, starting to clean up. What we can't tell you at this point, because we simply don't know, is whether or not a lot of these stores are going to be able to get back to business as usual. They've been here working for a couple hours now, and there's a lot of damage done. So as we come into these daylight hours and start the day, we're starting to get a more clear look at everything that happened last night. But there's a lot of damage assessments still happening, Shelby. And at this point, we're still waiting to hear from police on a lot of other incidents that happened overnight too. Fires, shootings, car crashes. And as soon as we have any more information, so will you. But certainly a lot to try to grasp still today.
Kimberly, thank you so much. We'll continue to follow this. We know you have been busy this morning, circling to a number of those scenes. Coverage with Janie Bowman. She's at Beauty Empire this morning in Peoria. Janie, we have been following the destruction that took place there. What's the latest that you can tell us from now that we've got daylight hours?
Hey, good morning, Shelby. You can see all of these windows here at Beauty Empire are totally boarded up. There's about 7 or 8 of these large panels of windows totally smashed. We have another one down the way that's only partially smashed. One of the sides of the window is totally smashed. You can see all of the glass here on the ground all over the place here as cleanup efforts are starting to begin. There's actually some contractors that showed up about 5 minutes ago or so. They've been assessing some of the damage here at Beauty Empire and also down at a Boost Mobile store right down the way. But you can see all of this damage here along the way. It's a lot to clean up and a lot that people have to do as the morning continues and we get a better look at what's happened here overnight. That's the update I have for you right now. But for now, I'll send it back to you, Shelby.
All right, Janie, thank you so much. And those cleaning crews, as they're working, have you been able to, I think we're got, oh, okay, Janie, for yourself, have you been able to see any of the owners or any employees as they've been working through, or is it mostly contractors that are navigating that?
Yeah, we haven't seen any employees or store owners. We haven't been able to talk to anyone who works here or owns the store here at Beauty Empire or that Boost Mobile down the way. But these contractors, it looks like they're mostly measuring things, trying to take measurements to see, you know, what more they need to cover up these stores and what kind of new windows they'll possibly have to order, things like that.
Janie, thank you so much for that update. A lot of businesses that are in this boat right now, as Kimberly Eaton mentioned, somewhat of a 1-2 punch, seeing that we're still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic and now some of these restless acts as communities across the city are working to navigate some of their frustrations.
I'm here at Kelly Beauty on North University, and it has been quite the morning. Take a look at this parking lot behind me. This is empty right now, but around 3 a.m. it was filled with more than 30 cars. They were driving in circles, they were yelling, and then some of them came out of the car, ran up here to the store, and as you can see, this door, the glass is completely broken. They came inside, looting, taking things, and leaving with it. Now come under the door with me, be careful with glass in here. The owners tell me that they definitely stole some things. Look at this case. They said they took some of the jewelry out of here. You can see they've taken some of the sunglasses, and the other sunglasses have fallen on the floor. They also tell me that straight here in the back, the wigs back here, they said some people stole wigs. You can even see over here, the mannequins have fallen to the ground. There are hair products on the ground in this aisle. So they've taken hair products, they've knocked things over. The store has been vandalized. And walk this way with me. Let's look behind the cash register. Look at this. They've knocked boxes over. They've knocked curling irons off of the shelves. And that's not all. Over here, the owner tells me that this was almost completely cleared out, this area right here, and this is some of their most valuable hair. She's also said that some boxes of hair has been taken as well. And you can see the bags of hair and products just on the floor over here. Now take a look at this screen though. She says, however, they do have video surveillance cameras. So they will be able to see who was in the store and who took what. But one of the saddest things the owner says is devastating is they were going to reopen the store today because the governor's order is allowing certain businesses to open back up. But now it looks like they won't be able to open up until they clean this up and until they fix this broken door over here. But that is the very latest. I'll make sure to keep you updated on air, online, and on the go. Live in Peoria, Treasure Roberts, Wmbd News.
Treasure Roberts, thank you so much. We're now joined by Kimberly Eaton as well. Really, when everything started coming in at around midnight or so, it seemed to be just incident after incident after incident. And our entire team has been working hard, both in front of the camera, behind the scenes, in order to bring the latest to folks at home. Like you mentioned, Kimberly, people that were maybe planning to come back to work today after things started relifting from the governor's orders. A tale of two very serious pandemics of sorts that we're fighting at this time. You all's final thoughts as we move forward throughout the morning and into the rest of the day. Eugene?
Well, you know, this is, you kind of said it there. It's two different things that a lot of business owners are thinking through tonight. I think there's going to be a lot of community members who are going to try to wrap their minds around it. I'm already texting people who I'm sure are waking up to this news. And just to try to formulate what exactly can the city police, how can they prepare in case this happens again? We don't know. We don't know if something could happen, if it can happen in a different city. How do you prepare for something like this? And as a business owner, as community members, how do you bounce back when you're already kind of shackled because of COVID-19 and because of the pandemic that's taking place? And then obviously, let's not take away from the larger conversation of what even sparked all of this. It is the community involvement relationship with police, right? That's a lot of what this is talking about, police brutality across the country. How does this get us to that point where we can have those conversations in the way that real change can take place everywhere? How does this help in that? I think that's going to be a lot of dialogue when we move forward.
Kimberly, for you.
Yeah, there's a lot to process. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of work we have to do on our end to inform people. And again, like you said, how do we prepare in the event that this was not only tonight?
Well, we will continue to stay posted. Thank you both so much for your time and your continued coverage. We'll be seeing you also tonight. I know this is not your normal shift, but we appreciate all that you all have done, and we'll continue to follow this. We want to set the stage for you as to some chronological events that took place in this night of unrest. To begin this morning, a break-in. Kimberly was just talking about it. She was there. It happened at the Peoria Target earlier this morning. Now, take a look at your screens here. Police telling our Wmbd crews that looters did get into the store off of War Memorial. Now, they have not told us at this time if anything was stolen. The glass doors, though, there you can see of the store were completely broken, some completely shattered, and officers guarding that store after the crowd took off were working to learn what the impact of the store, those store's hours might be for the rest of the day into the rest of the week. Now, at 1:30 this morning, Peoria police responded to witness reports of a shooting. Now, this was at the intersection of Sheridan and Russell Street. Now, when our crews got on the scene, at least one person was being treated on the ground, and that person was taken to the hospital. Both Peoria Fire and police did respond to that scene, investigators even blocking off that intersection. We haven't heard officially from police what happened, but based on conversations with witnesses that were there, they tell us that a man was shot and he was taken to the hospital. Peoria police also taping off Columbia Terrace at Sheridan at around 2 a.m. after reports of gunfire. They could not say if anyone was hit, but they did confirm that they were actively investigating a shooting there. Officers telling our crews that they believe that the shooting scene is related to other unrest in the city. You can see a host of gun shell casings, at least 7, were being collected by investigators. At about 1:15 this morning, a large crowd gathered at Sheridan and McClure in Peoria. Dozens of people became very rowdy at this scene. This was a gas station near the intersection. Now, when our crews got there, we did witness some sort of confrontation, some sort of argument between Peoria police and the people that were gathering at that gas station. At this time, we don't know if anyone was formally arrested, but there was some sort of involvement. Illinois State Police also on scene in order to help mitigate some of the traffic flow coming through that area. That scene has since been cleared. At 2:15 this morning, Peoria Fire and Rescue, they were on scene at Peoria Motors in Forest Hill and Prospect. And as you can see there were 2 cars that the firefighter at that scene told me he called this guaranteed arson. Those were his exact words. 2 cars were set on fire with accelerant, and a nearby fence was also on fire. About 3 firefighters were working to put out that fire. We've also since learned from that case that Peoria firefighters responded to a total of 10 vehicular and dumpster fires throughout the night. Another one of those at 1 a.m. Peoria firefighters worked to put out a fire at West Loucks and Sheridan. This was one of our first calls that we got this morning. This was a Tire King. Peoria police tell us they don't know exactly all of the details, but I did speak with one officer on scene who tells me that there was a large group of people that tried to set the place on fire. And speaking with witnesses that live in that area, they tell me this is a quiet neighborhood and they hadn't seen anything like this. We'll continue to follow any details that come about. At 2:40 this morning, Peoria Police and Illinois State Police, they were called to Pinnacle Gun and Ammo. This is in downtown Peoria at Main and Perry. The windows there have been busted in. It was not confirmed if anything was taken from that store, but we do know that Peoria Police as well as Illinois State Police, they were both on scene holding things down at that intersection, making sure no one else could come to that business. And we've got so much more that's since happened throughout the night. We will continue to follow this when we return.